Boom, 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 boom. Safe, 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 safe. We're back. How's it going? It's that time again. More. Just seeing if I can, like, post this into the GBjam Discord, wherever it is. It says I do not have permission to post in the streams channel. That's a bit peak, isn't it? Am I not? Oh, here we go. I found the right place. Making a temple how would we even describe this game, guys? I don't even know what I would say it is. Some kind of puzzle platform, I suppose. I'll just say let's go. Okay. Right. And on that note, let's actually go. So, here we are. We're back at it again. Been tweaking this a little bit more since earlier. So, we now have some pretty cool shaders going, whereby we have our like normal 4-color palette here, and then if you go into this zone, everything gets darker by 1 shade, and you end up with double black. Okay, which is pretty cool. And then over here, everything gets lighter by 1 shade, except for the black, which stays on black. So you have like double of the lightest color. So we can kind of simulate this sort of like darkness, middle, and lightness for like different light levels, which is really fun. And we might just actually attach that to whether or not you're carrying the idol. If you are carrying the idol, then maybe everything gets darker and scarier. But we've also been brainstorming more ideas for mechanics. And here they are. So this is what I'm going to be working through this evening. See how many of these we can get through in one stream here. But yeah, kind of just getting my head around the shader stuff that Pete had done and the lighting. And the cool thing is, look, we can basically, with this master shader here, we can just set whatever palette we want for the game here. And we could change that in code, whatever, which is just these 4 colors there. So we could have a different color palette for the menus, for the this, for the that. So that's really, really cool. Arguably, this master shader should actually probably exist outside of even this level. There should be like a scene manager kind of structure. It should be somewhere inside that. I would imagine. But it's fine here for now. I think the whole game for now is just this one room. So yeah, it's working quite nicely. But we've got a load of mechanics to implement here first. So let's do that. We'll call this light masks or something. And this one is like darkness. Or dark, let's just call it dark light mask. And this one will say bright light mask. Okay. Nice. And then we've got the water as well. I think Pete's going to be working on that, so I'll keep that hidden for now. Alright, cool. Right. So now we just go down the list. So we'll start with breaking platforms. But also I want to think about the data structure here, because the player has a variable, pickup. When this is idle, then everything needs to know about it. So I think we want to make our own custom signal that the player shouts and that lots of other things can listen to. So let's look at this, because this is something I've done a lot of this, you know, signals, but also only really the ones that are built in, not so much just making your own signals. Why is that a 3D thing? Let's look at this. Because I know about this stuff, but like just writing my own one into a script isn't something that I'm super familiar with. You can like signals via code instead of using the editor. This is necessary when you create nodes or instantiate scenes inside of a script. We connect the timer's timeout signal to the node. Oh, thanks for the follow there. El Notatodotal. El Notatodotal. Thanks very much. Big up yourself. I hope I pronounced that roughly okay. So basically what we want to do is like right, this is the part I want, custom signals. So I think the player wants to have a couple of signals here that we just call like this. I would call it idle picked up, and we'll have idle put down. Maybe let's just do those one word like that. I think that's fine. And now there they are. Never used in the class, so we'll do that now. If we picked up the idle, it's here. We just press, we say emit. Is that right? Like that? Yeah. And then when the idle is put down, if the pickup that you're putting down is the idle, then idle put down would go there. So now I think anybody who knows where the player is should be able to, in their script, connect to that. So we can test that in a minute. And I guess we also, yeah, I think this is fine. I think this works now. So I mean, yeah, we know that's working. We need to make something to actually like connect to that signal now to test that that's working. So I guess a static body is what we want. And we'll call it trapped floor or something. Trapped floor is fine. I guess everything can have a folder in here. So we'll save this in elements. Okay. And we'll give it a sprite. And it will be where to put it is in world. Yeah, we can just use this for now. No, it's in here. Like that. It would be cool if you could just invert the colors. I guess that is a shader thing. For now, we'll just do this and we'll just have it as a black square. It's fine. And it needs to have a collider so that we can collide with it. And just being on level 1, that's going to be totally fine. And it just wants to be a rectangle. And that's fine. And then we'll give it a script. And then I guess we want to do this when it's ready. We ask it to connect. So So it needs to know where the player is. Like everything needs to know where the player is. I don't think that script's being used anymore. Well, let's add a piece of trapped floor to the level. Not as a child of the player, though. Let's put it there. Or there. In fact, let's have a few of them to see what that looks like. Like that. Polydux, yes. How you doing? I hope you're good. Are you well? Yeah, we're getting into it. We're getting into it now. Trying to do a custom signal here. Which is something I know I should have been doing for a while. But I think this is going to work. So like if I... Updating the jam page, nice. I think it's right to just say, like if we have a reference to the player like that, does that work? Like, I think that's going to be the right reference. And then we just say player dot idle picked up connect. And then do I need to tell it what it connects to? So then we'd have like on idle pickup. And then this guy just needs that function. Without delta. Print. Yay. So this should just do it now. We should have all three of them should print. Yeah, no, okay. It's not happy. Base objects of type null instance because the player isn't ready when this guy's ready. Come on. Ah, Godot. I'm so behind on my homework for Godot. You're rooting for me. Oh, thank you. Well, we have an issue here where I think this reference is wrong. I think it's supposed to be like something like that, isn't it? Where was that other script I just closed? I want that script back because I think it had the example in it. The player script is there. Let's move that into here. It's not in there. Make everything global. Keeping all your clothes on the floor so you know where they are. Yeah. That's the ultimate life hack. Where is that scene? No. Oh, it's this color change. Oh, it's this script here, right? Yeah, I think this is what we want to do, but just with one of these, like that. I think that's the correct reference now. Okay, and now when I pick up the idle, I should get 3 yays. We do get 3 yays. Okay, it works. This is great. So most of our objects are going to basically connect to this signal here that the player is going to send to the rest of the world. Oh, it's looking excellent. Oh, thanks. Yeah, so, I mean, I think, like, we're looking at these different lighting effects, you know? So, I mean, we can change, it's quite cool the way we've set it up now. We can change the palette here, where it's all built in grayscale. And we change the palette here, and then we have these light masks that shift the palette along one. So you get like double black, and then like, oh, my head is in the way of what I'm pointing at here. Just try to get my head out of the way. But yeah, like this palette here is 2 lots of black, and then the grey and the light grey and no white. And then this bright one is the black, but then the light grey and 2 whites. And so we can kind of like, yeah, have like dark rooms, middle rooms, and have light rooms. And we don't have to change any of the sprites. It's just all being done by these masks, which is pretty fun. And then of course, like, yeah, like at the end, if we're like, actually, you know what, like I really feel for the palette to be a little bit more like red, then we can just sort of like do that. And it's like totally just like really easy to do. So that's pretty cool. Pretty nice infrastructure there that Pete did all of this, I have to say, over the weekend while I was away. So yeah, pretty cool, pretty fun infrastructure for making Game Boy style games. And then of course this master shader here, we can also change these in code. We're allowed to like have different palettes for menus or for different levels, as long as there's never more than 4 colors on the screen at one time. My understanding of the rules is we're fine. So like we might have a palette for menus, and then a palette for like world 1, and then a palette for world 2, palette for world 3, like that. So yeah, that's all lots of fun. Now that this signal's working, we want to do the same thing for put down, and then like that, and then have put down like that. Now almost all our scripts are going to probably, like every object in the game that we make is going to look like this, I think. So like, oh, when he puts it down. Yay. Oh, yay. Oh, yay. Oh. Okay, good. So that works. Now the trapped floor itself needs its own sort of functionality built on it. So it needs to check if the player is here, start a timer when the player enters that area, and yeah, custom signals. Yeah, we got there, man. I just had to read a little tutorial, like the Godot documentation thing, where it just talks you through it, but it's fucking really easy actually. So the player just has the signals declared there at the top of the script, and then we emit them when we want to, just by calling .emit. And then this guy, when it's ready, we need a reference to the player, and we just connect to that. And then there it is. It's like it's way simpler than I anticipated. Yeah, this is cool. So let's now make the floors fall over. So this floor is going to have a timer on it, and the timer is going to be like it's collapse timer or something, or what did I call it? Trap. Let's call it trap timer. And let's give 1 second, and it's a one shot. And when it times out, it's just gone, buddy. For now, we can make it have an animation, a little crumble or whatever, sound effect, all these fun things. It looks easier than using normal signals. Yeah, what do you mean? Than like connecting them here and I know what you mean, yeah. Can you use those canvas blocks of light with a mask so you can give it pixeled edges? Yes. So they, in fact, are just sprites. Yeah, so we can, yeah. you could do anything you wanted with those, I suppose. I guess this sprite has curved edges already. So maybe not actually, because that's a full square. But I guess we just need to probably add that to the shader. Pete might know. Pete might be able to field that question. Yeah, we can. Yeah, sweet. We would just need to basically check where the alpha is 0, right? And just set it to 0. Change the alpha value in the shader to match the sprite. Right, yeah, sweet. So in this shader, the palette one that we're using here, it would be like that, wouldn't it? Somewhere in there, you'd want to maintain the alpha value through. Okay, Pete's the shader expert here. I'm gonna crack on with the with these bits. But yeah, in the long run, I mean, these could be used to do all sorts of fun stuff. So back to the trapped floor. In that code, I'd color A. What does here? Still don't have curved edges on it. I don't know what else to try. Maybe it should be up there, should it? I don't know if that would make a difference. Probably not. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna stick to the trap floor for now. So then this guy needs to be able to detect when the player is above it. So it needs to have like an area called player detection. Nice one, Polydux. Thanks for dropping in. Big up yourself. Shout outs to you. $650 people joined the jam this time as well. Shout outs. That's sick, Polydux as well. That's really cool. It's a lot of people. Right, so this guy is going to have a collider. And it's going to be a rectangle, and it's going to not lock to the grid. It's going to be like that. If the player's anywhere in that area, then you've trodden on the thing, right? Maybe we can make it a little bit less harsh as well. So you can get like near it, yeah? But like once you start to get too on it, it's just gonna go. And then that needs to it's not on layer 1. It just looks at layer 1. And when a body enters, let's have it look at layer 3. And let's put the player on layer 3 instead of layer 1. And let's call that layer the player layer. Okay. And then this guy's looking at layer 3. So it's only going to trigger when the player goes on it. And then when a body enters, connect to trapped floor. Let's put that before the timer times out, and let's start the trap timer like that. But only if unlucky equals true. So then probably most of these scripts, they all need to have this variable for unlucky, which starts at false, and then when you pick it up, it becomes true. And then we just say if unlucky. Oh, but it's not if body entered. Because what if you enter it and then you pick up the thing? You want it to still trigger. So it's like, it's not just about whether it's entered, it's just about you know, it should just be whenever. I've got an idea. If this is not monitoring, so if like when unlucky is true, I think this will work. Because when you go from not monitoring to monitoring, you've worked out the shader isn't working out what the sprite is. So I'll add it to the code. Okay, sick. Okay, where do I add that? Hold on. Let me just think about this. So player detection dot monitoring is false there. And when you put the idle, no, it should be set to false, and then that gets set to true there, and it's not monitoring by default. Oh, it kind of worked. Eventually. That's set to 1 second. Seemed like longer than 1 second. Okay. At the end of the fragment function here, we then want to say vec for sprite equals texture UV color dot a equals sprite dot a, like that, yeah. And not cooler. Nice. Nice. Yeah, that's wicked. And it's keeping the pixels real as well. That's legit. All right, very nice, very nice. All right, so that's in. And are these working? What's the debugger? No, I don't think we care which body it is. Okay. It seems like a very long second. But I guess that is how long a second is. I mean, if this timer was 0.2, then I'm guessing this is going to feel a lot more lethal. Yeah. Okay, pretty good. 0.2 feels like too short. We'll try 0.4. That's pretty good. Okay, so they're working. They're done. And this is the blueprint for setting up behavior on these kinds of things. It needs art, but like it is working. Play a hitbox and health, and you get 1 heart when you're unlucky. Okay, so this I guess is probably the next thing to set up. Either that or we skip ahead to doors and buttons. Why don't we do that next? These aren't going to be tricky at all. It's just a bit fiddly. Trying to remember how I've done this in the past. These guys, they're pick-upable, aren't they? They are. So that's what you want. You sort of want like something that's going to check for things that are in layer 2. So we'll go new scene. It's going to be another static body, and it's going to be a button, and it will have a collider. And it'll have a sprite. Which again we'll just use demo tiles for now. Do that or something. So if I do 12, that makes it like 2 pixels high. That looks good. And then we'll offset it by like -2. So it sticks up like that. The collider can be a rectangle that does the same. And then it has an area where it detects item detection. Another collider. And that will be like that. It can just sit on top of there. And that's looking for pick-upable things. And this one's just on level 1 like that. That's fine. So all I want to do first is set up the visuals and the physics of it. So we're going to give it a script. Nope, we're going to save this first somewhere. In a new folder called button. There it is. We'll give it a script, also called button. And it's going to, like this guy when I guess it needs to count like how many things are colliding with it. So I can count 0, and then when one of these goes in, they're bodies. So it's when a body enters and when a body exits. Item count plus equal 1. Item count minus equal 1, and I think like check or like update. And then same here. And then its update function will just like basically say, is item count 0? Is like less than 1. I mean, it should never get to anything. It should just be. It should just be able to say if it equals 0. Else, if it's not 0, it's going to be a plus. It's going to be something positive. So, if it's positive, let's do it like this. If item count is greater than 0, then these two guys are impacted. Like sprite visible false and collider disabled. It's true. Otherwise, other way around. And then that should, it's not in our level, but that should work now. Like just from the point of view of like putting something on it and seeing how it moves. Like if I put this button there, and then we grab this guy and we pop it on top. Okay. The collider still isn't. Oh, and we get an error every time. Call deferred or set deferred. Yeah, I think I've encountered this before when it's enable and disable colliders. So we go set deferred property disabled value true false. That's better. Perfect. Now you can't see that there's a button underneath, but again, this is just an art thing. We can sort that out another time. That's fine for now. And these unused body variables there are giving errors, but now they aren't. And then these guys up there. And let's have a variable called state. Well, I suppose the item count is the state. If we ever need to check that, we just check it. We just look, is the item count 0 or is it greater than 0? So I think that's the buttons done, except for obviously they don't talk to anything yet. So probably what they need is an export variable. Called I don't know, what do we call it? Like the thing that it's affecting, the thing that it's plugged into. Connection, maybe. And we'll just say that's a node 2D of some kind. So there it is. Now we could throw like a door in there or something. And then whenever we do an update, this is what we've got to do. We've got to say if connection dot turn on, and then probably down here as well, turn off. Now that the reason I'm doing if connection is to just like, if it's null, we're not going to get an error, I hope. But if there's something there, then it will attempt to call that function on it. Yes, we don't get any errors if it's not connected to anything, which is cool. But if it was connected to something, if there was a node in there, it would attempt to call this turn on, turn off, which now means we're ready to make a door with these signals, yeah? So let's do that next. It's going to be another static body called door. Very elegant. Okay. I do feel like over the years, you just gradually organize your work much better, don't you? It takes time. It's like intuition. It's hard to like describe. And then of course there's levels to this shit. There'll be people watching what I'm doing going like, man, this is absolute chaos. Why is he doing it like that? But I feel it's getting elegant now. So I'm glad you do too. Now, the door. The door will want to have all the things that a good object does: a sprite, a collider. In a lot of ways, it's going to be very similar to the button because it's going to kind of want to do the same things. It's going to want to say, look, when I'm off, make my sprite invisible and make my collider not work. And then when I'm, yeah, whatever, you know, it's going to be almost like we can copy the code straight over. So we'll use demo tiles again, and this time maybe a 3 high doors were the way to go. Maybe we'll just use the whole texture. We'll just use that. That's our door. Yeah, it's fine for now. It will do. And then what we'll do is in fact, yeah, to make it easier on the eye, we'll just make it a massive black block. It's not a bad door, yeah. Just having the 3 in a row, right? But we'll just make it black just so that we can always see it, and so to avoid any lack of clarity in what we're doing here. And then we'll give this a shape. All right. And then save that in a new folder called door script, door turn on turn off, references to these guys. When we turn it on, we want the sprite to be visible. Okay, so here's the thing. So when a door is on, it should be closed. Yeah. So sprite visible false. So these are the right way around. And then when it's not being powered, that's when it's closed. Yeah, because that just makes sense, doesn't it? That you put when the button is pressed, the door is open. So that's the way we want it. And then in sandbox, we'll bring in a door, not as a child of the button, and we'll put the door somewhere where we can see it, like there. And we can't walk it through the door, that's for sure, but we can jump over it. Luckily we can open it with this. No, it doesn't work. Oh, because the door needs to be the button's connection. Yes. Okay, buttons and doors work. Easy. Yeah, man. I probably spent like a day trying to make that work when I was making Aquaboy. I wouldn't be surprised. We'll move this over to here now that we've finished sort of playing with it. But that should give us like a good... Oh, forgot I was walking across those with the idle in hand. Okay, now what we need to do, we need to go and get this one, bring it over, put it on the button, then get the idle. Through we go. And then we could grab that, and we've got the idle through. Okay, yeah. So there's things to do here. There's gameplay to be made. Next, the player hitbox and health. Do I put that off any further? I think we have to set that up now. I think that's it, and then because then we're getting into things that will impact the player's health. Water's a little bit different, even. Okay, pretty cool. How long have we been going? About an hour. Not bad. Not bad progress so far. I'm going to take a quick break for 5 minutes, and then I shall be back. So I'll just play some tunes. And yeah, let's put this here so that people can see something. If anyone comes and sees the stream, I'll see something happening. Put that there, put that there. Ah, lost everything. I don't know why it did that. But yeah, I'm gonna go grab a drink and whatnot else, and then I'll be right back. Alright, big in the game. Ah! Oi, oi, we are back. Big up yourselves. Let's go. What's next? Player, I think health. I think we move on to the hitbox and health system, which shouldn't be tricky particularly. We have this idea that when you're holding the idle, you're going to go down to 1 heart. And maybe, you know, with this lighting stuff, here's a question. What happens when they overlap with each other? Ooh. I guess nothing. I guess whichever one is in front just is the one that works. Yeah, that's interesting. So we could use like normal and extra light mode in the world, and then just whenever you pick up the idol, everything becomes this, regardless of whether you're like in light or normal or whatever. Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, we can experiment with that. Right, it's like nearly 10 o'clock at night, and I swear down I can hear the neighbors are drilling. If you're overlaying them, you need another back buffer. Aha, okay. But we are losing information. It's like it's a destructive process, isn't it? Each layer of back buffer, like the next layer is not going to be able to tell that 2 pixels that had been previously merged used to be different colors. You know, it's not going to be able to pull 2 that have become the same color back apart to being 2 different ones again, because it's just reading what's there, and it's like I said, it's almost like a destructive process. Every new layer, so we still wouldn't be able to pull. You wouldn't be able to pull it back, like if you're in the. Yeah, okay. That's fine, though. That's totally fine. I'm just wondering if we do want all the lighting to change when you pick up the idol, because that would make it really clear. You know, the simplest way of using all this stuff may just be that. And, like, you could have it so that, you know, the black one actually follows you around and is just enabled and disabled by the idol, whereas these ones we actually use in the world for, like, effects. But you'd only see the lighter and darker areas when you don't have the idol. Because when you do have the idol, you're just gonna be dark. Maybe. Anyway, that's more food for thought, I suppose. Thinking about health then. So if I put a GUI layer because this canvas layer here, yeah. Oh, layer 5. What does that mean? So because it's at 5, it's going to be above everything. So if we had our GUI between this one's set to 1, it's Z index. So if we had a GUI that was between 1 and 5, then the master shader would affect it, but the in-game ones wouldn't, which is what we'd want, because your GUI, we wouldn't want it to be like changing the color of the GUI based on the light in the room. So I think that would make sense for the GUI. And this master shader, anyway, I was thinking probably belongs in a layer above the actual sandbox, where we have like some kind of scene manager, and it's going to be in there. Because we want it applied to the whole game, you know, not just like inside the levels. Okay. So if I make another canvas layer and we call it GUI, and we put that in like here, and we'll put it on layer, say like 4. Okay. Now let's also change the structures here. Let's put in a manager. I like to normally call this scene manager actually. And let's instantiate the sandbox in there. And then make, oh, hold on. Save that just in the, I'll save it in game, scene manager, there we go. And then if I move this, is it going to break? If I just move it into shaders? I don't think so. I think it's quite clever, isn't it? Yeah, nothing broke. Very nice. Right. So now, if we run scene manager instead, and then this guy, the master shader, if we copy that, if we put it into scene manager instead, like there, and then remove it from sandbox, save, does everything still work the same as before? Yep, seems to be. Oh, we want the player to be able to press the buttons too by standing on them. Of course we do. So this guy, item detection, it's looking for things that are on the pick upable layer, but also maybe it should be looking for the player. So then, yeah, nice. I think that's fine. Good. Okay, so now that's not here, we can see the level just in its grayscale. And there it exists there. Outside of the level, the master shader there. That's very nice. Now this GUI, now let's see what goes on with the GUI. So if I pop a text direct in here, which I think is what I normally like to do for these kinds of things, and we'll just call it hearts. And we'll make the text to be the box. Should be fine. It's exceptionally large. Why is that so big? Oh, because it's probably set to scale it, whereas I want to tile it. And then let's give ourselves 3 of them. Right. Now. Why? That guy's origin isn't on the origin. Okay, but never mind, whatever. So there they are. And that looks right because they're affected by the palette that the game is running in. But then when they come in, okay, if we pick up the idle and get rid of these and we can get low enough, they're not affected by the lights in the level like the player is, for example. This is perfect. This is what we want to see. Okay, so that's good. So they work. Yeah, so I suppose we need hearts and we need empty hearts. So I need some artwork for those. I'll just bang them out now quickly. Won't take long. Yeah, it's just these 4 colors that I need. Can you edit palette? Can't you just new palette from Sprite? No, just, yeah, like 4. Just those 4 colors. What about the white? What about the white? Oh, I guess I needed to tell it to do it for 5 to get the white as well, because it wanted to give me the transparent. Lovely. So I'm gonna make these. I mean, I've done these so many times. These like little hearts, like for something. It's not too bad, is it? That'll do. And I'll move it. Oops. To be more in the middle like that. And so the empty one could be actually even darker, maybe. Yeah, that looks all right. And then the full one could be bigger somehow, bigger and lighter. So like, yeah, we'll just go all the way around the edge of this. And then we want nice and vital white. Right in the middle. Something like that. Let's do it. We can always change these later. This is definitely placeholder. And if I export as with selection, and the white doesn't just like open up the thing like it normally would. When I go choose file, it comes to like right to the root. It's kind of mad. Okay, levels. I guess it should be in elements. I'll just put it in player. Heart full. Okay. Export. Heart empty. Okay, nice. And then hearts can have heartful as its texture instead. And then we can duplicate it. Hearts empty. Hearts full. Oh, where'd my hearts empty file go? Did I not actually press export on that? Really thought I did. Am I going crazy? What is happening? It's not the right... Somehow, look, it's got like doubled. It's like created some other random folder. Okay, let's save it there. And then... I am so confused. It's added another making... Yeah, this is like... A sprite has just gotten so confused. Wow. This is wild. GitHub. Misfortune. There. That needs to be deleted. Now. That's where it really needs to be. But it's like, it's adding. Look, it keeps adding. No. No. This guy is crazy. So we have to just go choose file and we have to just find it ourselves. There. That's where we want it. Why? That was really weird, man. So I think what was happening was that A sprite was like adding the file paths on top of each other. I don't want this to be an A sprite file. Oh my god. That is the hardest exporting of a file I've ever had to do. That is crazy, right? So it's done. And the empty can be behind the full ones. And when the full ones go down, the empty ones will show themselves. That looks good to me. Let's just run around the map with that on for a minute. Okay, yeah, cool. They probably want to be the highlight color in the middle. Like, it's probably... something like that. That looks better. Very nice. Okay, cool. I'm wondering about a slight change to this now. I can't be bothered. That'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yep, save that. And then a player gonna need to have a hitbox. And I think it probably makes sense to just have this be just yet another area. And just have all of the like damage effects happening on their own layer on layer 4. So we give an area to the player called the hitbox. And the player's hitbox is going to be just a collider. Yeah, I think it's best to just keep it completely separate. So we'll say that the player's hitbox is looking for things on layer 4, which we'll call player, or we'll call like the damage layer, I guess. Or yeah, player damage. Okay, and then so that's looking for player damage, and it's gonna be a rectangle that's probably gonna be the same as the collider of the player, or maybe just a little bit smaller than the collider. But then I guess if there's things that are gonna damage you that you could collide with, something has to give. Like maybe the things that can damage you that you can collide with need to be damaging you. The damage needs to be further out on those objects than the collider actually is. I think we can do it that way. Okay, so we'll keep this like that. That's fine. And then this guy, yeah, so we'll make it be areas then that it looks at. And because the player's going to probably want to have some invincibility frames when they get hit by something. So we'll add a timer to the player called damage cooldown, which could be like, yeah, 1 second. It's a one shot. And it's going to link to the script as well. And the hitbox, when something enters it, is going to link to the script. So in the hitbox area entered, if, right, and then we're going to have to put a reference to this guy in here. If damage cooldown dot is stopped, yeah, so if the damage cooldown is stopped, then it means we're not like in the middle of a cooldown, so it means you can actually take damage. So then we just, yeah, say like take damage there. I guess when it times out, nothing happens. So I guess we don't need that signal linked from the timer. Because we're just checking is it going or not. So if it's stopped, then like definitely like start it, and then also take the damage. So then like we'd have the player I'd have like a variable called health. I think it's fine for the player to get new health at the start of every level. I don't know if we need that to be a variable that carries from level to level for this particular game. So health is 3. But if you get hit when you're carrying the idol, it's an instant game over. So if the damage cooldown is stopped, if pickup is idle, then you just print game over. Else, if the pickup's anything else, then you're going to say if health is greater than 1, give a brief timed transition between full health and idle health to show it decreasing. Like the idol eats the hearts. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll definitely show it like change on screen. I guess we could add animations to any of these transitions, I suppose, as we go. It wouldn't be too hard because I'll just lerp the thing. The other thing is we could have a third layer of like not even empty hearts, just like idled hearts. You know, hearts that you have, but they are they've been eaten by the idol. Could be cool. So if your health is greater than 1, you're going to start the cooldown timer on health minus equals 1. Else, this is another game over. What we'll do is we'll zero func player, we'll just say dead, and we'll print that in there, and then we'll just call this here and here. Maybe have idle faces when they're idle munched to show they've been affected by the idol rather than being lost. Yeah, that's a good idea. The sprite could change to an idol. Yeah, that's a great idea. So maybe doing it by the sandbox, maybe this isn't the right way. Maybe I should just have 3 sprites and load the images in and out. Or they should just make a... Maybe I should just make a health GUI scene and give it 3 states, and then we can just control those 3 states however we like in here. This should all be working now. That area, yeah, we don't care what that area is. I mean, we don't have any hazards to test it out with yet. But yeah, let's just think. The other thing is that if it's the same hitbox that originally damaged you, it's not going to do it again. Because this is checking if the area's been entered. Do you know what I mean? If we're just stood on some spikes, they're only going to damage us once. So maybe then if this is stopped, then we definitely have to start the timer, which I don't think I've done yet. I thought I did this, but oh look, it's here. Oh yeah, wait, hold on. So if it's idle, then you're dead. If not, then you're going to start this cooldown timer. And we're going to refer to the hitbox. Here. What we'll do is we'll say like set deferred monitoring false. I think that's supposed to be like that. And also I don't think that's set deferred, I think it's that way around. False. And then this guy can come back, and then we set the monitoring back to true here. And what that will do is that will allow for this to trigger again. And because this is timed out, that will be set to true, this, and then we should be able to get hit again immediately by the same hitbox because we've sort of turned it off and on again. I don't know why I'm testing this because there's nothing to test it on. We need something that actually inflicts damage on the player now to test it. But before that, let's think about this GUI thing, because this is a good point. So what we're going to do is we're going to have, we're actually just going to make a third one of these. I think this is going to be fine. And this one's going to be idle heads, or idle hearts. Hearts idle. And that one goes right at the back behind the other two. And it will have the idle head as its sprite there. Okay. Now that's interesting, yeah, because they don't get fully covered because they're bigger than the heart. Damn. Well, they always do the same thing. They're just there every time. So maybe they can be at the front, and then just whenever they get idled, they just get idled. Oh, those hearts stick out the back. Well, that's fine because I can just pull those away like I would anyway. Yeah, okay, so this should be fine. Let me just show that graphic up there instead. How does that look? That does visually look pretty obvious what's gone on there. You're like, oh shit, okay. My hearts have turned into idols. The sprite doesn't line up because it's like a different sort of shape. Because these hearts are like an odd number of pixels wide and these are even. Not much I can do about that, except that it might just look better. Just like that. So they kind of line up with the starting point. think that's fine. And then they'll obviously be blank like that. And then start like that, that's fine. And we come into here and do we have a function for like update hearts GUI? And I also wonder if this GUI should actually just be in the player scene anyway. It probably should. So if I copy that, bang it in there, up there, and then delete it out of here, and then the player scene, save. Firstly, does that just let's just pass there. Does that look the same as it did before? Yeah, no changes. That's very nice. And yeah, it's still behaving in terms of its ordering or whatever, its placement in this. Yeah, it's not being affected by the... No, it clearly isn't being affected by the lights. That's good. And then all three of these guys can have references in there, but I'm going to put GUI at the front of them. And then update hearts GUI. So the first thing is if item, is it item or pickup? I'm asking this question again. If the pickups are idle, then it's always the same. It's always like this guy is, whoops. That's not, okay, it's always like that guy. Visible, true. And the other two just go down to 1. Whatever your health is. Empty. And then, what do you call it? Just size. Size dot x equals 16. And I think same for this. And then else, if the pickup isn't idle, then we're just going to update it normally, so that's going to be false. We don't want to see the idles at all. The empty hearts are always going to be 48, and this is going to be 16 multiplied by health. And then just whenever anything changes, so that would be oh yeah, no, this is fine because we're just checking when, yeah, this is fine. We're overriding any health that the player might have if you take damage when you're holding the idle. So yeah, we don't need to worry. This should all work. We just, you always want to update the hearts GUI here, and then also we want to do it every time we pick up or put down the idle. So when we emit put down, we'll do it, and when we emit picked up, we'll also do it. And then that should work. Again, wait, I can't actually test. Oh, I can test the idle part. Yeah, okay. Right. So picking it up worked. Putting it down, not so much. Oh, look, we're updating it after it, like, really. I mean, we just put it there. It's kind of funny because we don't need to do that if we've just put down a box, but we're setting null, so it just this should work. It's not the most efficient thing, but yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so the idle eats your health. Now we want some hazards to test that the player can actually be damaged. But I'm thinking the player can. I think this will work. I'm very confident in my abilities now to set up these types of things. I have to say. It's bugging me though. You see this guy? Unlock it. Why can't I move it? I have unlocked it, right? Why won't it move? What is going on? Okay, let me move it there. Weird, maybe I was just in the wrong. Yeah, you just have to be like that, do you? Okay. Anyway, now that shouldn't make any difference to anything, but it's just at the origin, which is tidy. Why can't I jump up there though now? Oh, because of the button, because the button's another collider that's stopping me from, because everything's slightly out of whack now. That's fine. Let's move these. Yeah, so that was why then it's about the tools up here. Okay. Cool. Now, should we just make basic spikes and put them in this gap here? I think this works because this pattern is like 4, right? It's definitely not going to win any awards, but it's going to work. And we have the light on this side, don't we? Cool. Now let's see if Sprite knows how to export files this time. Let's go absolute path. I think that might have been the problem before. And then choose path. Here we are. And then spikes. Spikes. Export. That should have made my new folder in here somewhere. Spikes and spikes. Get a new. What did I just do? I just like pasted what was on the clipboard. Paste from clipboard. No, okay, that's cool. But no, that's not what I wanted. I want a static body called spikes with a sprite and collider. What's that not happy about? Oh, it needs to be there. Sprite. Be that. The collider. Should be something like that. I'll do the button and put that like that. Yes, let's do the same here. Sprite. The collider can go up there like that. And then maybe the collider actually is just like there. And then the damage zone. So we're going to have an area called damage. And it can have a collider. And it's going to be on player damage. Because, okay, hold on, because, oh yeah, let's save this in the spikes folder. Because the player was like looking in its hitbox, was looking at number 4, and this is going to be on number 4. And then a rectangle for this, for its like hurt box. I'll do it like that. Just a little bit, just a pixel of leeway. Probably really dumb, but whatever. We'll do it like that. It'll be fine. And then this guy is going to be the thing that's going to trigger damage. So when you stand on that, you'll be able to run along them because they do have this collider for you to run on. But you are going to be taking damage once every second while you're on them. And they don't need to have any other behavior for now. We can now test all of our damage dealing fiascos here. So we go grab the spikes. Let's put them down there. Duplicate them a couple times. Okay. So now we've got rid of those. Okay, yeah, cool. So that worked. We just lost health like every second there. And then with the idle, just game over straight away, man. Okay. I think it's working. We can juice up the damage taking and all the rest of it. But that is juice. The hitbox and the health is working. And the spikes are working. Although, yeah, now we've got to create the spikes behavior. So let's do that now, I suppose. So when you've not got the idle, we want them sort of like, and then when you do have the idle, they're just up. They're just never down. So they're going to need to have, just like the trapped floor, they're probably going to borrow a lot of that script. Because like the trapped floor has, you know, it like connects Ugh. We want the player. It doesn't need to do any of that stuff. Trap. Oh, it could have a trap. Yeah, the trap timer. But let's build that up from scratch. Unlucky. And it connects to these guys. Doesn't have any of those yet. And doesn't need any of those. It's just that's the kind of guts of it. And now we can build the behavior out from there. Yeah. So the spikes need like two sort of states, I suppose, like out or in. So state. Let's say they start false, which means that the sprite is off and the collider is disabled. And so it's going to want to know about both of those things. And then it's going to want to have a timer. And the timer will be like, it's, I don't know, like, let's just call it timer. It's fine. We know it's a timer. It only needs one timer. And it's how does this work? We'll say it auto starts. And then if it times out, we say if unlucky, then like when the timer times out, like state is always true. It's just always true. Else state like equals not state or something, right? Not state. So that if it's true, it'll be false. If it's false, it will switch to true. Is that gonna do it? And then I guess we need functions for the swapping. So we need like set state true. This is confusing me. Set state. Hold on. Because the thing is, the timer, right? When the timer timers out, if you're unlucky, you do nothing. Otherwise, we'd use this set state function and we'd set it to not state, like whatever state is not. Yeah. Then set state new state, like that. State equals new state. And then when you pick up the idle, it's always going to be set to true. And I think when you put down the idle, we want it always to be set to false, and then the timer to be restarted, right? Whoops. And let's make the timer's value actually be an export variable here, so that we can set spikes to certain values. Timer cooldown or something. Or just timer value, and then we'll set that to like 2 seconds. In fact, I think we want to get a bit more precise about this. So like we call it like spike time, which would be like 0.5, and then cooldown time, which might be like 2 seconds or something. So then that's going to say like every 2 seconds they're going to come out for half a second, and then you have a 2-second break. Yeah, let's do it like this. This is going to be really nice and flexible. So when you pick up the idle, you just set the state to true. And you just stop the timer. Like, we don't care about the timer anymore. That's just true. When you put down, you start the timer. And you start the timer with the cooldown time. And then whenever the timer times out, if you're unlucky, you just don't do anything. You just let the timer die. So it can be a one shot, and we'll just make sure we always control it manually. So if you're unlucky, just don't do anything. If you either way we do that, and then we say if and so like if you're not unlucky at this point, then you can start the timer, and you'd start it with spike time. And state is true, then do that spike time, and if you're not unlucky, and state is false, need a couple of equals is there, then it would be cooldown time. I feel like I've probably done something wrong here, but also I think that might work. Let's see. So we'd be expecting them to like be showing themselves and then not. Oh yeah, but obviously, well, you haven't actually done anything. We're changing the values, like we're changing the state, but the state means nothing. So we do all that. And then then it's just a case of like if state equals true, either way when we set the state, whether we're lucky or not, like we just want to do these things. So if the state is true, then collider set deferred disabled false. Oh, also we want the damage collider. Also, we want damage in there too. Oh, no, that's not equals. That's just like that. So, and damage monitoring. No, monitorable. So when state is true, then monitorable should be true. And this is true here. This needs to not be monitorable by default, like that. And then if state's true, those two things become true, and the sprite is visible. Else the opposite. True, false, and false. Now it will work. Now it looks like half a second every 2 seconds to me. And when I'm holding the idle, they're just always up. And if I put the idle down, they go back to their old rhythm. And when I pick the idle up, they're just on. So I can drop the idle in there. That's kind of cool. I try and pick him up from here. There we go, and I get to hold on there. And that guy's just there. That's like a nice platform on top of the spikes. I can take damage. Get game over, in fact. So that's not working now, but I think, is that just because, like, if I, it's because I already got a game over state, I think, and which is then fucks with it all. No, they're not damaging me. They did give me a game over. They did give me a game over when I was holding the idle. Why? I wonder what's going on there then. Is it even being entered? Let's print something here. Like, yo. Right. That's strange. I wonder if it's a quirk to do with making something monitorable again doesn't necessarily refresh it's, you know, it going in and out of the collision box. That must be it. Like, it doesn't count as area entered when something that is already entered becomes monitorable. That surprises me, but that kind of must be it. Because when we enter the... And what about this? Here's another experiment then that would prove it, I think. Like, if I run across here and I get rid of that, if I'm moving when they come up, yeah, then we get a yo, and we lost the heart. But just standing still when they come up, it's not like... It doesn't count as something entering the area when it gets turned to being monitorable again. Whereas if our area wasn't monitoring and then it starts monitoring again, then yes, that counts as entering it. So how do we get around that? A cave entrance demo via WhatsApp. Oh, nice. We got some music. Oh, no, you've drawn a thing. Oh, that looks really cool. Look at this. I like it. That looks really, really cool. Yeah, very nice. Very, very nice. So how do we get around this then? I guess instead of making the monitor, we can disable and then enable that. That's what we need to do. So instead of this being a reference to that, it needs to be a reference to that. And then instead of doing monitorable, we'll just do disabled. And when the state is true, then it's not disabled, like that. Ah. Oh, this is stupid. That's totally not what I wanted. I wanted this collider. It needs to be like that. Damage collider. There we go, like that. Not hitbox collider. That's dragged something from the player there. Oh, it's still not working. Come on, I was convinced that would do it. Is the player's like hitbox goes all the way down to their feet? Yeah. This is quite surprising me now. Oh, no, I'm not surprised. Monitorable is still set to off by default, but this should be disabled by default. It should be like that. Okay, I think this will work. Come on, take off a heart. Yes! Okay, good. There's the player script. We don't need to print yo anymore. I'd quite like to finish a game loop. So, like, we want the scene manager to have a reload current level function or something that we can call here when you die instead of printing game over. I'll screw it for now. It's fine. I don't need to code that in. I'll do that once we've actually got levels to put in. But I think this is a good This is a good spot to be in now because those spikes are just working the way I want to. And I should be able to like come in here and look at these spikes, yeah. And we could change their stats. So like this one could be 2, 2. This one could be like 1, 1. And then this one could be like 3, 3. Or like 1, 3 or like 0.5, 3 maybe. And they'll all be doing different rhythms. And then you come over here, pick up the thing, and they're just all like, nah, man. But then they all disappear as soon as you drop the idle. And sort of restart their pattern again. Yeah, man. Yeah, boy. Can I set all of these variables together? Like, if you do that like that, will it affect all of them? Oh, it did. Okay, that's also very, very cool. Might just have some fun with this down here again. Let's go for a classic like Game Boy green type vibe here. Something like that. Oh yeah, man. It's a Game Boy ting. Those colours are pretty vibrantly green. Okay. I'm sort of feeling it. That's probably a bit better. Slightly in from the center. Or from the edge, rather. Looks legit in the Game Boy colours, doesn't it? Looks great, yeah. Oh, I dropped the thing just in time there to avoid the game over. Yeah. This is cool. And it seems like we're making very fast progress, really. So yeah, might call it there. I think in the morning I'm gonna have a fair bit of time before I go out for the day. So I should probably be able to, I probably won't stream in the morning, but I'll probably be able to finish both of these. Or at least get the dart shooter. Maybe we should try and do that. I mean, the dart shooting shouldn't be too difficult. That should be something we could do pretty quickly, I would imagine. Because that's just going to have a frequency for when you're lucky and a frequency for when you're unlucky, basically, and swap between the two. We'll have to make the projectile. Think a little bit about what we want, what type of object that should be. I mean, we probably want it to collide with things. I think there is a bit to think about there, because what would be really cool is if the darts could push blocks. When a dart hits a block, if it pushed it like a block, like one block to the side. So I think there is good stuff there. What if it was a flamethrower? Yeah, nice. Flamethrower would be good. So the flamethrower could almost be more like an AoE type thing, whereas the darts then is like a flamethrower is essentially spikes but a different shape. You know, like it's puffs of fire when you're in lucky mode, and then when you pick up the idol, it's just a constant flame. So it's just like, it's like spikes, but instead of it being a thin strip, we could make it be like a, you know, it could be a shape or like a direction thing that guides the player around. And yeah, I think darts pushing blocks would open up a lot of more like complexity. Like, so you pick up the idol because you know it's going to make something shoot, where you've set up a block that's going to get knocked off an edge onto a button, or you know, something like that. Let's try one more shader here, one more like color palette for fun. Maybe something in this like cyan kind of might be nice. Also, I think that's maybe a bit too dark for the first shade, because you kind of, we want a fair bit of contrast, don't we? So something like that. Those all look nice. Actually, this reminds me of Circuit Mana. This is the kind of vibe we had in Circuit Mana, wasn't it? This kind of blue. Kind of classic Game Boy look. But with a bit of a cool twist. Yeah, cool, man. Minty fresh. But yeah, I think that's good for today. That's another couple of hours, another few things ticked off the list. I'll push this as well, Pete, now. So if you want to add anything, add to this version. If you've just been doing that art and stuff, unless you I don't know if you've got anything to push now, or any changes. I think I'll push this anyway, what I've done. If you've got changes, you can probably overlap. Okay, fine. I'll push this now then. But yeah, good progress today. Good progress. Player movement, picking up and placing blocks, breaking platforms, doors and buttons, hitbox and health. Got the first hazard in. We could make levels. We could make a few levels now. I suppose we need the logic around like gameplay, like loop logic, like level exit. So like restart level on game over, and level exit, idle check, and then I guess just all the like scene manager script, level loading in /out. So once I've done everything on that list, it could be like level design. Then you'd sort of be into this like level design. You'd be into like menus, adding sound, adding art, and adding juice and polish. Because at the moment, like, you know, when the destructible block is destroyed, it just literally vanishes, and when you lose health, it just, that, you know. So there's loads of things to polish, like things for like, but we'll get into this, like I'm putting in all the sub kind of dividing of what needs to be done for all of those sections after we've done this, because this is just mechanics, and yeah, and the basic like finishing the gameplay loop, I suppose. It would be fun to have a map as well, like a map hub world where you can walk around, but probably unnecessary. But it'd just give that like Nintendo feel, wouldn't it? Anyway, yeah, I think I'm gonna maybe fiddle around with it a bit more off stream. We could jump on another call, Pete, if you want to chat some nonsense for a bit. But I think I'm gonna call the stream here. And just vibe for a bit, like Mario 3. Yeah, in it. Well, I think even like Mario Brothers, or what's it called, Super Mario Land 2 on the Game Boy, that actually even had a full map, didn't it? But anyway, yeah, boom. I'm gonna close the stream. So thanks for watching. Big up yourselves, one and all, and I'll catch you soon. Peace out.